Hello, Linda. Devlin, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's really nice to be here today. This is the new world where we're all having conversations and really good ones. So I'm pretty excited to be here today.
Yeah, it's normal for us to meet now by Zoom or Teams calls and talk about
Yeah,
the big ideas of the world. That's what we're talking about today, you and I.
yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I have this conversation with mostly families on the daily, and then I have lots of information to share and a little bit of experience of my own
Mm.
to share with your group. So I'm excited about that. I know working in I don't know, I just had my kitchen redone. So I'm just
Oh,
like, I'm amazed
here's your
by,
chance to talk to everybody in the.
yeah. So I the cabinet making and the whole process. I was living in my living room for probably about 6 months and how it all developed. And I have so much respect for everyone who works in the field of carpentry and
Yeah.
cabinetry. Just I just love my kitchen. So
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
I'm a happy customer.
Well, now you and I met because through a mutual friend,
Yeah.
because I was looking for an expert on family dynamics and addiction and mental health. And today you're going to be speaking to the people who built your kitchen, whether they're here where we live or anywhere around the world, because it's all business owners in that field. And Linda, I always remind them, and I'm sure people listening to the show are going to roll their eyes when they hear this, but I remind them that the work they do is the last thing people see before they go to bed at night and the first thing they see when they wake up.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's incredible because you don't realize how much it takes and the expertise and the training and everything that, helps things. And it's the same with the family system. Families are nurtured together
Mm,
through it's called a reciprocal attachment. So when you have a baby and that baby loves mom and dad, they need you to survive. They need you to um, for that connection. And then as kids grow older, they start to sometimes separate from that connection with family and start to
yeah.
kind of go in their own path, which they're truly, sometimes not even developed yet in order to do that. And so that's where we come into some problems, right?
Yeah.
And whether it be learning disabilities onto ADHD kind of diagnosis to using substances, right? And yeah, I don't know if you want me to introduce myself,
Well,
but
yeah, that's what I'd love you to do now, so everybody knows your background, because we're here today to help. We talk about cabinet making and the business of cabinetry, but we're really talking about dads and moms and brothers and sisters who have families. They just happen, the people listening happen to go to work and run a cabinet shop, but the family dynamic is either together and whole and good and wholesome, or it's falling apart and crumbling. And I'm hoping today you can give us tools to identify problems. Maybe, do I use the word fix? Is that okay to say fix the problems or start?
well, I just don't think that there's ever a destination. I think that it's a journey, and you hear that it sounds like a song or a metaphor, but really every family has their own path to follow, and sometimes it's genetically kind of a challenge, and sometimes some families go through life and it's just easy peasy, and it's family is the biggest value that you have, and you kind of stay on a right track and a career path and all of that. But a lot of families, because the world has changed, are struggling. There's a lot going on in the world right now that is very difficult for you and me and everyone, let alone teenagers, and where they're trying to find a sense of the world right now. And
Yeah.
and I try to help families when it doesn't matter the age, but when they're trying to, move forward as parents, they didn't get a book on how do I deal with when my kid wants to use drugs or alcohol, right? Or my kid has ADHD and he's hasn't been diagnosed, but he can't pay attention and he's, failing in school. And, so those types of assessments are really important. And I've been working in healthcare for 25 years. And I also, I'm the same person that, when I was a kid, used substances and went too far. And so I'm free of that now. Like, I know I have a really good respect for addiction and mental health issues because I know that I was there and I had to really dig deep and lean into getting better. And that's what families do. Like, I had my family surround me and say, this is not you. Right. This is not you. And the most important part to remember is that developmental stages of a child, the most important ones are from age 4 to 7, but then their brain doesn't even fully develop until they're 25. And so if they're going off trying all kinds of different things and the party, the avoidance, I mean, a lot of teenagers right now are using alone. They're not even using with friends. They've found something that makes them feel good, and they're isolating. And because the government says you have to, and because, like, we're trying to deal with another big problem with the pandemic as well. So, I've been doing this a while.
You've been at this a while. Yeah. Just so we know, so everybody has a basis of understanding, what is your role in this world of family dynamics and addiction and mental health? What do you do?
Yeah, so families hire me. Like, I've worked in healthcare. Like I said, I worked for government for many years in the decision-making side of things with funded agencies and all of that. So I knew kind of how the government and healthcare was going to be dispersed. And then I realized I want to help people. I want to help families because you constantly hear that the system is broken and that the system doesn't, it's like any type, if you have a stroke and you go to hospital, soon as you come home from the stroke, the burden's put on the family rather than the healthcare system to provide what that person needs, right? And it's the same with any healthcare and chronic illness, is that the family kind of has to deal with the problem, right? And whatever those problems are. And so I started my own private practice. I'm a certified credentialed interventionist, family interventionist, and I got certified out of Pennsylvania, actually, and many years ago. And then I am also an alcohol and drug counselor by clinical counselor, and I've just been working on my credentials my whole career. So I've been going to school probably 10 years out of all the 25 I've been working in this field.
Ongoing, that's the thing we see consistently is people who are, they're passionate about what they do. They're consistently looking for more information. And, I mean, that's why people listen to this show, because they want more info.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And addiction is evolving. So we have to too. You know what I mean? I always say to be a therapist, you have to have one. You know what I mean? You've got to always be learning about yourself and how you deal with it. Because even as a therapist, you can get too involved too, right? Yeah. And so you can either get too involved, or again, if you look at attachment theory, is that connection with a family. And my job is to help families problem solve. Here's what we're dealing with. Let's bring it out into the open.
So, how do we recognize that there? So I'm going to speak from the perspective of a parent, because people listening to this are a certain age. We have kids or family members around us, and we could easily go down the path where the person listening is the one who has something they're trying to overcome. But for today, I think let's focus on, if you're a parent or an aunt or uncle or grandparent, and you see what you think is a problem, how do you identify it? And then how do you take the first steps to help or offer to help? I'm so cautious, Linda, that I don't say the wrong thing, because I don't know what I'm talking about. That's why you're here.
And isn't that sad that we have to be so careful around how we say it rather than the work is so important. And that's exactly what happens with addiction as well, and mental illness, because people are ashamed to talk about it, and the families are ashamed to talk about it with their own family members, let alone their neighbors. And, I think about it. I live in a bit of a community here, and we all hang our Christmas lights out, like we're all out all weekend and stuff, but you don't know what's going on inside those homes. Right. You don't know the tears and the fear and the sleepless nights that families are going through because of substance use. And, whether you're struggling yourself with it or a family member, it's not easy because you don't know. It's fear. It's so much fear of what could happen, in this today's market of substances, let alone whether it's legal. Alcohol's been legal for many years, and it still can cause huge problems in people's life because they become dependent to it.
Right.
And if you drink once every week on a Friday, that you go to the next Friday and you don't drink, you're going to go through withdrawal. Like you're so used to having that. And times that by 1,000, like every minute, every day, your body becomes accustomed through tolerance to want more. And anything to do with addiction is more. And you're never satisfied, like you're always working towards the next, right? And the next high. And a lot of kids don't understand that. They're walking in blind. They don't know what they're facing. They think it's not a big deal. They start to rebel against parents.
Right. Marijuana is legal now in a lot of places, so it should be okay. I can use it as much as I want. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do I recognize that? How do I recognize the signs that maybe somebody has they're going down a path where they no longer have control? What are the signs that I would see?
Well, you would see it in responsibilities and accountability. So if you're a family member and you notice that he's skipping school or she, or not doing their homework, like those are typical teenage things.
Right.
But if that continues on and on and on, and then they finally start to challenge you that they don't want to go to school at all, and then they don't want to get a part-time job or a job, and they don't want to do a lot, they just want to stay home, or they want to be out with their friends, you wonder where they're getting money from, because money can be a real, challenge too, because you give your kids money thinking it's going to go on McDonald's, and you don't know, they could be piling that up to buy drugs. And so I don't want to scare everybody, but I think when somebody's not themselves. And when people are high, you'll notice a huge difference. You'll notice a difference in their motivation, like they don't want to do much. If they're using more stimulant drugs, they might not be sleeping much, or eating. So you'll notice
a change in patterns. I'm going to see a change in their
absolutely
whatever their pattern is.
Absolutely. And they don't want to talk about it. Like the biggest thing they say with families is, let's talk about what's really going on. Right.
And what if they don't want to talk? What do I do?
Well, again, like it's like I've seen where some kids are taking over the household, and they get to the point where they're running gangs out of their parents' homes. I've seen it.
Oh my.
And so there's a power shift that happens within a family system where kids don't want to, accept responsibility for the things that they're doing, and their excuse is that parents don't understand, right? And you don't understand what I'm going through. You're old, and so they start to kind of not.
We are old, Linda. We are.
I know we are.
We are old. I don't think I have drip anymore. Apparently I don't have drip. I don't know what that means. But
yeah. I don't know what that means either, but I
don't dress well enough. When you have drip, you've got lots of, I guess I'm probably even defining that wrong. Somebody's laughing right now.
See, I might have drip still because I wear Gucci sometimes, and the kids love it. Like they're just saying, oh, I've even bribed them before and said, you get a year clean and I'll give you a Gucci belt. I've done it.
Whatever works. Yeah,
whatever works. But I think families know their kids really well, and I think they try really hard. Like I'm working with a mom and dad right now. She's a school teacher, and dad's he works in IT, but they're just amazing parents. All, and their one son is so sad and scared for his older brother because he's using drugs, and they
know for sure that one of the brothers is using. They know it.
Yeah. They know it. They see him come in with his knapsack and run out with it, won't let anybody in it. Like he's hiding, stashing alcohol and drugs. And the sad part is that they're an amazing family who has always talked. They always breaking bread and talking, and they have an intimate attachment with each other. But as soon as the addiction come in, the kid starts to lie. And that's what happens, because you're going to lie about the truth. because you think it's either for, oh, I'm just going to do it this weekend for this party and then I'm going to stop. And it's always, I'm going to stop on Monday, or I'm going to stop at the end of the month, or I'm going to stop on January 1st. Like everybody makes that, that diet kind of commitment and all of that. And what happens is that when addiction takes over, it's that the brain is working at the same time as the excuses that we make. And so they're always moving towards putting things off. Procrastination is a huge behavior that is, if you took 10 people that use drugs and watched their life, you would notice a lot of common things, like they're not very motivated. They don't sleep well. Sometimes they're, and rightly so, there's a lot of anxiety driven diagnoses out there right now with kids, really
social anxiety and
social anxieties. You'll notice hiding things, lying about it, a little bit of reckless behavior. You got to watch it if you are letting them drive. You got to really put some type of accountability measures in place. And really, your job is to help keep them safe. If you can help your kids feel safe at home and learn how to have those conversations, that's why intervention works really well. And I'll tell you a typical intervention.
I was going to ask about perhaps another family or that family, because it sounds like you're talking to the mom and the dad and the younger brother, but I don't know that older brother is in the conversation yet. So maybe tell us how an intervention works. Yeah, he is.
But he wasn't in the beginning. Like sometimes, like my job is to assess the family and assess what the issue is. So people hire me, like in intervention, there's a lot of different types of and models of intervention, where my job, I work with families for about 3 months. And I go in with them, I assess their situation of what they know to be true. Then I bring in the identified patient, which is the person using, and we all start to have that first family meeting where we're trying to get to the truth of what's happening and what does he need, what kind of love and support that he needs. They're very loving process. And some young people don't like them because they, it shuts down resources and what they're wanting to do. And sometimes they just want to party and handle it themselves. And so the families are saying, no, we love you. We're the ones who have your back here, and we want you to get through this.
So what would you say? What would you say to a parent who knows their kid really well and says, "But Linda, we could have 3, 6, 9 months of meetings between the three of us, but the fourth person in our house, our oldest son, he's never going to sit down with you." What would you say to that? How do you?
Well, and we find a way. Like I use very many methods. Like I have peer coaches on my team that are his age, what I mean, that I would bring in, and I would link those two together and say, your parents want to have a family meeting with you. The other part is that if they don't participate, then the parents have to make some tough decisions too, right? And sometimes they might be, consequences, saying you can't use the car, you can't stay out past this.
So they have to earn the right, they have to earn the right to get the car by coming and sitting down for.
So we do everything we can to make that happen. I haven't had too many cases where they just refuse and run away. Like that doesn't happen.
Can I ask a question on that? Do you find that deep down they actually want to change?
Yes, that sometimes they're wanting an intervention. I did an interview with Vice magazine a few years ago, and they wanted to know about intervention and what you saw on TV versus what really goes on, right? And I said then, and I still believe it, is like there's a part of young people that want to be intervened because it's a way of the family showing them love. And saying like, I love you this much that we're bringing this out in the open. And then once they don't like me for a while because I'm the one who came in, and they call me the interventionist, but I always bring a peer with me that they're going to work with, and I'm going to work with the family. And so it's a really good team approach to trying to engage with this individual. So the peer coach goes and meets with them, takes them maybe to an NA meeting, which are 12-step AA meetings, similar for young people, right?
Right.
And so they will go hang out for a couple hours a week and just talk. And the peer who I send has been through all this. He's been through treatment and rehab, and not everybody needs treatment and rehab either. Some kids can kind of pull it together before it's really bad. And that's the thing, is we're trying to prevent bigger problems. And so sometimes the younger you can engage with them and educate them about alcohol and drugs and what's going on out there, like it's almost like having that sex conversation with your kids. They don't want to have it, right? They don't want to have it with their parents. But,
no, they do not.
But it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Like, this is a conversation about safety, and that we want you around a long time, and we love you that much that we're going to do whatever it takes to love you and be your parents and be your family. Right. And whether it's an uncle or, and I usually bring in, we develop an intervention team, and the team is, I do the assessment on every individual in their life and then assess whether they're going to be helpful or not. Like, you can't bring in a brother who's really angry and they don't get along, because he's not going to listen to a word of it. So you have to make those types of strategy decision making, right? And so my job is to help move the family along. And whether it means I'm guiding the parents to get some real strong boundaries, or whether it means they're cutting him off money, whether it means he's, got to get a job, whether it means, he's got to get buckled down into school. Like, there could be all kinds of things. And I just think every family is different. Every single family is different.
There's, of all the people listening to this show, maybe most people aren't dealing with this, but there's one family out there that really needs to hear a story about a hard situation that a family went through, and then the good news story at the end. You've already got a smile on your face. I can see your eyes lit up. I'd love to hear it.
I have so many. I've got, there's a treatment center up here for youth. And when I go by there, I usually have about 3 guys in there at any given time. And because families are hiring me quite a bit. And, so I've got these 3 guys, they become like best friends in the treatment program. But in the beginning, it was like I had to almost bribe them to go to rehab. You know what I mean? So you do whatever you can to get them there. And then the boys and the energy of it, like, they all become like a brotherhood, right? Or a sisterhood. There's a female program as well. And so this one individual, his name starts with N, and he's got about 3 years clean now. His parents had kicked him out because they couldn't take, and the mom was a counselor. And so they just didn't know what to do anymore. And what happened was they had to force a hand because they couldn't have him stealing all their stuff. And, it got really
it was really bad. He was taking stuff from the house, selling it to, he was using really heavy drugs. Like, it started out with marijuana. And it usually does. I'm not saying always that it's a gateway to heavier drugs, but you've got to be very careful. And so, he went to treatment. He stayed there, and then he went to like a sober living environment for another month because the parents still weren't ready to take him home, right? Because they wanted to see his new life in action. And so he's now 3 years clean. And he's got his own car, he's got his own job, he's got his own bank account, he's going to university in September. He took a few years to make that decision. And him and his parents have worked through so much because he was so mad at them. Like, he was mad at the dad for something that had happened between mom and dad. And he just carried that into his addiction. And then, in the 3 years, he's been able to voice what he was upset about. They have really good dialogue, really good communication. They know that he has a support system besides them. And that's one of my biggest messages, is that the family can't fix all this. Like, you need resources, and you need other people that are peers, like you said. The peers is probably more important than, I'd never thought about that, but you have to have people around you who listen to the same music, understand the same things, hear the Yeah. Wow.
So he helps other clients of mine. Like I have him, he's got about 3 or 4 clients of mine right now that he goes out once a week and goes and sees them, drives them to an NA meeting and hangs out with them, and they're staying clean. And now I got one of them taking a year. And so it kind of is like that. Like recovery communities are really strong. Like you've got to fund the recovery movement. It's called recovery capital. And recovery capital is where you build this investment into your loved one, right? And the recovery can be, the peers that they have in their life, the family support that they have, the financial. Sometimes they get to have a savings account because they're not spending it on drugs. They have a school capital where they're building what they want to do for a career. They might get an apprenticeship. Like a lot of the kids that go into apprenticeships have had problems too, right? And they go into now believing that they can get these trades rather than work at Starbucks, And so good on them, and good on the people that are willing to just, give people that hand up support, right? Yeah. And a lot of schools now and a lot of employer groups are really understanding mental health and addiction in the family and how they can be supportive to a career path for individuals. They have so much trying to support, but the biggest challenge I can say that there is time. Okay. Timelines.
How do you mean?
Well, it's really hard to get into the health system, when you have an issue.
Oh, okay.
And so a lot of people, the burden becomes on the family to pay for, right? Like services that are private versus services that are funded.
Sure.
The other challenge that's happening right now is the political kind of will behind whether, drug use is acceptable or not. Like they're moving in a new direction now because of the opioid crisis, but they're missing out on all the 3/4 of the population that have nothing to do with that, right?
Oh, I see. I listen, the news headlines. I don't seek out the news, but I do hear things on the radio as I'm driving. And I thought that there was a sea change, and now, a certain amount of opioids were okay, and they weren't going to prosecute people anymore. And marijuana is now legal. And to me, it sounds like pandemonium, but you're saying that there's actually, it's not
what it is like as if the healthcare has a budget and they have to disperse it through every chronic illness. Okay. Stroke, heart, addiction, mental health, all that. Okay. So addiction gets very small amount that gets dispersed. And I'm sure in America, it's the same thing. There's not a lot of attention to, so then you break that down even smaller to the opioid crisis versus alcohol and marijuana and psychedelics and prescription drugs. The opioid crisis is getting all of the attention because it's killing people. And so rightly so, but for the other population of people that have alcoholism or, prescription drug use or marijuana to where it's, onset schizophrenia, those are the things that can happen for all those individuals, and they don't get attention. They don't get the support from the system. And those are the folks that I worry about because families can't afford treatment for everybody. And it's a two-tiered healthcare system. If you have money, you can get help. If you don't have money, then you're waiting in line, right?
Sorry, I was just going to ask, let's go back to that family again. So you've got some great news stories, and you've got this cohort of people that are hanging out and helping others. So you're building a community there. But how does it look now for that family with this young gentleman that was having trouble? Before, their life sounded like it was chaos and a lot of just stress. How does it look for them now that they've had that conversation, now they found somebody like you? What does their life look like now?
Well, they live in gratitude, and they, just the other day, the mom, 3 years later, right? The mom messaged me and said, how can I help other families? Oh, and so I have her. Nice. Yeah. So I have her helping some of the moms, and, so moms can talk, right?
Paying it forward.
And then same with the husband, he's helping other dads, so there's lots that happens. The family changes together, with recovery recovery is very powerful because it doesn't just, like the way I work with families, even if I have to do the counseling myself and they won't go to a treatment center, I work with the family as like a system. Okay. So where I'm working with mom, I'm working with dad, I have a peer working with the drug user themselves, because they're not going to necessarily connect with me. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So then we come together as a family and we're working on not just addiction. We're working on, I do like a wellness wheel where you're looking at, picture a circle of a pie and you break it into.
You saw that look on my face. What's a wellness wheel? Yeah. Okay. Tell us.
Picture a pie, it's a circle on a piece of paper, and you cut it into 8 pieces.
Okay.
One section of the pie is family. One section would be school or work. One section would be friendships, because you have to really look at that. One would be purpose. What are some purposeful things? One would be self-care. Like, what do you do just for you? One would be fun. What do you do for fun that's not going to destroy you? Another one would be life goals and personal development. So when I meet with families, I have them all working on that. So every week they're telling me what they did in each of those areas to improve their life.
Okay.
So mom's working on her self-care. Mom's working on her purpose. Mom's working on her life goals. She might go back into, teaching or counseling or something, right? Whereas the identified user, he's working on his recovery. He's working on building friendships that don't use drugs. He's working on his purpose to be free of drugs. His work or school will be his personal goals. So you're working on a wellness wheel with the whole family. And so everybody's kind of saying the same language, and you're not just focused on the drug use. Because if you just focus on the drug use, that person's going to feel like it's all his fault. It's, it's not a family issue.
You're just blaming me. You're just jumping on me for something I enjoy doing, the friends I hang out with.
Yeah. So a wellness wheel works in every client I work with. Every single client I counsel ends up doing a wellness wheel for themselves, because it shows them that they're a whole person, that they're not just their substance use, or they're not just their drinking. They're not just their job, right?
They're more than that.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to ask this question, but I'm also a big fan of reality, not theory. Is it always a smooth path where, we started having the meetings and then now they're hanging out with this group of people that already have gone through it? It's like kind of peer mentors. And then everything runs along smoothly, or are there like dips and bumps and setbacks?
Oh, I always believe it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And so families hire for 3 months. Okay. And sometimes, like, I've worked with a couple families for up to 2 years, because it ebb and flows, and the person might relapse and get back into it. But what changes is the family changes. They don't see it the same way they did the first time.
Oh, because you're educating them on, like, this is what it looks like. This is what's going to happen. This is part of the cycle.
That's right. And so expectations are really laid out around what to expect, what to hope for, and what to expect. Because hope is a powerful thing, because hope turns into a lot of faith in individuals, right? And beautiful outcomes. But I believe that recovery is a journey. It's a lifetime journey. Like, I'm still working on my own recovery in life, because it makes me a better person. I'm always striving to do better at what I do. And, that's why I think I'm a student for life, is what I call myself, because I want to always learn. And Jessica, the girl that that told you about me, like, she is unbelievable. Like, she's just an amazing woman.
She is,
Right? And so you're picking the right people, I can tell, because this is a huge issue. And, I don't want to scare people. I want you to be able to find the gold in every individual, like, find the gold in what's happening, find the trial and tribulation as the motivating factors for moving forward. right? Because if you stay the same, it means you stay in somewhat denial that the problem is as big as it is, or is going to get bigger. And so you have to help people see that there is hope, and that having some eyes on it, and pressure too, because sometimes teenagers need pressure. They need the pressure of the family love to override the pressure that they're going to get from someone else in their life that says, come use with me, come party.
Changing your friend groups and changing your
Yeah.
patterns and habits and what you do in your free time.
Exactly.
Have you ever heard the story about the cocoon?
No.
The butterfly in the cocoon. So hopefully I don't mess this up, but there's somebody sitting there doing his homework, and on the windowsill there's a plant, and hanging off that plant is a cocoon. And as he's doing his homework, he looks over and he sees that the caterpillar inside is struggling to get out. And so as he's doing his homework, he keeps watching it, and he sees this poor caterpillar struggling to come out and become a butterfly. So he thinks, well, I'm just going to help it. I'll just make a little tear in the cocoon and let that butterfly come out. And so he just makes a little tear, and then he goes back to studying. He realizes the caterpillar, which is now a butterfly trapped in this cocoon, is still struggling. And he thinks, you know what? It's my turn to do something good. I have an opportunity here. So he tears open the cocoon and lets the butterfly fall out. And the butterfly falls onto the table safely and lands there. But as he continues studying, he watches it, and the butterfly never fully forms, because it didn't go through the strain and the stress of breaking through the cocoon, pushing all the fluid from its body into its wings. And so its wings stay misshapen. They never fully develop, and it never becomes the butterfly it was supposed to be, because somebody got in the way, didn't let it learn its lesson.
That is an excellent metaphor for families, because it's true. Like I call it the lawnmower parent. The lawnmower parent is, you've heard of the helicopter.
I have, yeah. Where's lawnmower?
Okay, the lawnmower is where you shove every obstacle out of the way for your loved one, because you don't want them to have any negative consequence in life. And so what that does is it becomes enabling the person. Not like, what are they going to do if you're gone? What are they going to do? They're not going to have the survival skills, because you've taken every barrier out of the way.
All the hardship out of the way. They've never learned to.
Right. And even with addiction, even though it's life-threatening, sometimes people have to have negative consequence to really see. And I don't think people have to hit like bottom, because if you look at even an intervention, that can be a bottom. Oh my God, this all came out in the open. I didn't know my family even knew. And now I feel like crap, and I better do something about it.
I see.
But the thing is that if you don't do anything and you just sit back and say, oh, they're going to figure, like there's a scaffolding, and then there's a enabling, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the work, is to figure out that you're not codependent and enabling your loved one to not experience any negative consequence, but you're also not just letting them fall on their face all the time either.
Right.
And, with the opioid crisis, like, people are so afraid, that their kid's going to die.
Terrified. I am absolutely terrified that, because my kids now marijuana is legal, and I've got nothing against marijuana. Tons of my very successful friends smoke and eat gummies on a regular basis. So we know that it's not that. But for some people, that is the way they, it's the first thing they do, and then they do something else, and they do something else, just like alcohol. It scares the heck out of me.
Well, with an undeveloped brain, to think about that, because
because I'm 53, my brain should be set.
No, I meant for a younger person using marijuana. Like 50% of teenagers are going to develop a mental health issue that young, if they're going to start to experience drug use that young, or learning challenges and all of the things that they're going to go through, because their brain has not developed yet. And so I say, wait till you're 25. And if you're going to try things, at least you have a good sense, a cognitive sense of what your world is like. And when I say to young people, I say, it's hard to fly when you're a teenager, and you don't really necessarily want parenting anymore, but you want a mom and dad. Because there's a difference. There's a difference between being a parent and being a mother. And so and a father. So what kids want is they think they've got this. They think it's so funny, honestly, because sometimes they're saying, yeah, I could do this on my own. Oh, really? Like, how much money do you have? Like, they have nothing. They couldn't even get to the corner store,
Right.
but they think that they could handle their whole life on their own. But really, they don't understand it yet. They don't
No.
understand. And a lot of teenagers just want to be on their own. They want their own place. They want to be on their own. They
They want
want to make.
independence. They want independence, but yeah. I talked
Yeah.
about trial independence with my kids, and
Mhm.
I might be a bit of a lawnmower parent, because for me, trial independence is I let them walk to the other end of the mall with their friend while I'm not with them, or something
Peeking around the corner.
stupid, something totally stupid. But I remember being that age thinking, I don't need my parents, and I'd walk down to my room and close the door. Well, I'm still in their house, and I'd come out and eat something and go back in the room. So and then making that decision when you just reminded me to move out, I was like, okay, here's how I can save money. I can drink from mason jars. And if I get disposable cutlery from like Wendy's or Burger King, then I never have to buy that. And, how can I save money and move out on like the cheap? But I was fooling myself. I needed to go out and develop a career.
That's exactly what's happening for young people. Is like they're just wanting that freedom to see, but they don't realize what it is. So if I can suggest anything to families, is to just allow them to kind of go through some stuff, but as long as they're talking about what they're learning from it too, right? Like, so that they can say, oh, what did you learn? What did you learn from that negative experience? What did you learn? And get them to build a bit of a toolbox for themselves. And that's where the peer support is really important, because they're going to build like this, toolbox of things that they're going to be able to practice in life, like communication, like asking for what you need, but don't expect to get it, like going through life and working for something and feeling really good because you did the work.
And
right?
knowing it might not be easy. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a client yesterday. He built a clock for his mom. He's only 13. And
all the cabinet makers here are very interested now that you have somebody who's got manual skills and loves doing things. So yeah.
Well, he has mental illness, and he also is autistic, and ADHD. And so he hasn't even used drugs, but I work with him, just try to keep him, because he just wants to game all the time. So gaming addiction is really big for him because it just keeps him in control. And so what happens though is mom is trying to get him to focus on his school. And so he went to school, and he was really proud actually to make this clock. It was like a grandfather clock out of wood, and it was beautiful. Like it looked like it came from a store. Like it was beautiful.
I love it.
And she showed it to me yesterday, and she was just so proud of him, like that he actually is, because we don't see their capabilities either. We're parents. We're jaded by thinking they're amazing and awesome to thinking that they don't know how to fly, right?
Well,
and
one of the things that happens in this community here of cabinet makers and architecture workers, furniture makers, one of the problems that we have is that schools tell you, if you want to be successful, you need to be a computer programmer. You need to be an accountant. You need to be an engineer, a nurse, or a doctor. Otherwise, what's the use? And there are so many great opportunities in trades, and it gets overlooked. It becomes if you can't do that, just go into the trades. As opposed to it being a choice where you could go and be proud of what you build and work on a great team and contribute fantastic work to build some beautiful projects that gives you, if you're a computer programmer, no offense, once you see the game built, okay, that's good, but you turn off the computer, you can't see it anymore. But that young man's going to see that grandfather clock or that clock and always look at it and go, I built that with my hands.
Yeah, I agree with you. And right now, like I take clients to BCIT, which is a trades school, and they have these professional days where you have what it takes to become an electrician or a carpenter and all of that, right? I think that now people are like, a lot of young kids don't want to go to university. They don't want to go to university because it's so long and so hard. Like it is very hard. If they didn't pay attention in public school and high school,
how are they paying $50,000 a year to do it isn't going to help.
Yeah. And then a lot of them are sitting at home on a gaming apparatus and learning how to make a YouTube because they think, and they're being told that they're going to be rich on YouTube because they're going to get all these subscribers to watch them play a video game. That's
Right.
what's going on right now.
So those are other addictions that we have to deal with, right?
Well, you know what? It's true. Like, anything that is an obsession and a compulsion can become an addiction, right?
Yeah.
Because it's that never-ending train of thought that is focused on something that takes you away from all the other responsibilities of your life.
Yeah.
So it can be anything. It can be anything. And a lot of kids are, because of COVID, are at home and they're on their Xbox or on whatever way, their PC, and they got to have the best. You know what I mean? Like,
which you're buying for them.
It's got to be the 2021 version.
Yeah.
And and they're getting lost in that. So make sure you look out for game times and responsibilities, because a lot of kids don't even do chores. Like, they don't even think they have to. And so they're not learning that. They're not learning that there's some responsibility with fun. They can't just have fun all the time, right?
Let's do this as we start to wind down. Right now, somebody listening here is just beside themselves. They probably didn't expect to hear this topic on this podcast, because here we talk about the business of cabinetry, but I'm so glad you came to join us. But there's somebody here who this is the shining light through the clouds they needed. They don't know what to do. Somebody in their family is hurting. They don't know how to help. What's the first step? Like, how do you, if you get somebody at that point where they don't know what to do, but the next step is impactful to the right end, what do they do? How do we talk to them?
Okay. So, and I think there are some really good parents groups that are out there, like Nar-Anon, Al-Anon. There's some really good groups of parents that are meeting together, and they're free, right?
Sure.
Like, you can go online and look up Al-Anon or Nar-Anon, parents groups.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
I didn't know what Al-Anon was. Can you explain what Al-Anon or Nor-Anon is instead of Alcoholics Anonymous? What's Al-Anon?
Yeah, so Al-Anon is for the family members. That
Right.
The AA is for the individual, and then the Al-Anon is for the family members, so they can learn how to support their loved one without doing all the work for them.
I had no idea that existed until somebody in my family, they started going to the Al-Anon meetings for the person who was having the problem, who was not going to Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And now he's on a better path.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And same with Nar-Anon. Nar-Anon is for the drug users. It's a community-free program that they can go to meetings and meet other people, individuals like themselves. It's the same with the Nar-Anon family groups, are for the family members that are struggling with a loved one having a substance use issue. And so those are free resources. You can look on your government websites too that have resources for family members. The challenge there is that if your loved one is in counseling, say you get them a counselor, they can't tell you anything because of confidentiality. So the family gets nothing, right? And so some organizations like, what's it called in North Van here? Oh, I just went blank. But anyway, there's many different organizations on government sites that are free. I offer free consultation, so you can contact me anytime. Just email me or call me. I can leave my information.
Actually, why don't you do that? If somebody wants to find you in this big wide world and pick your brain and talk to you about your experiences, how would we find you?
On Psychology Today. You can look up my name, Linda Lane Devlin, and send me an email. It's right there. It's easy. It's quick. You press a button and I would get your email with your phone number, and I would give you a call.
Oh, so good. So easy to find. Yeah. Easy to find, but until somebody shines a light on the fact that you exist, that people like you exist, I'm worried that somebody out there hasn't found this and has needed it for so long, and I'm hoping it's just the thing they needed before we go into the holiday season and, the gloominess that some people feel about wintertime. It could be anything, but
So anybody can phone me and ask me questions. There's also like prevention programs in all the schools that I don't know what they're like in the US, but
well, yeah, we have listeners all over the world, all throughout America, up in Canada, over in Australia, and some in New Zealand, South Africa. So yeah, everybody would have their own government programs wherever they are. Yeah.
They are, and it's challenging. Like I said, it's challenging for the family because they want to treat the individual rather than the whole family system. And family therapy sometimes is a challenge because it's not addressing the substance use issue, right? Like, so that's why intervention and family case management is what I do. It's called family case management, and it means I'm managing the whole family, right?
The whole system, right?
The whole system. Yeah. And read up on, another thing is Google's great, right? Like it has some good information on attachment theory. Like find a bit about yourself and your family system yourself. Like, when I went to school to become a counselor, they did this thing. It was called a family genogram. And it looked at all the hereditary issues of addiction and alcoholism throughout generations of my family, and I connected the dots. It was unbelievable.
Oh wow!
To say that I had this genetic disposition, like it wasn't my fault. It was like, my grandparents were alcoholics, and my brother was an alcoholic. There is sometimes a connection that way. Sometimes there isn't. Sometimes there's no genetic, no reason, no rhyme. Kids just like to get high.
Or video games didn't exist in our parents' generation.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So how could that have expressed itself perhaps as an all-consuming behavior? And you think about trying to take a cell phone, actually, even ourselves, trying to put our cell phone down for a couple hours. You need that thing in your hand. You need to check your texts.
Well, who talks about that really good is Russell Brand. I don't know if you know who Russell Brand is.
I do, yeah. Does he do a bit on it?
Google him on the 12 steps. Like he talks about cell phone use and the impulsiveness of that and the obsession with that.
Yeah.
And because he's in recovery and he shares open, he's got tons of information online. I don't work for him, but I use his stuff all the time because families and sometimes teenagers just want to hear it in that language of that my life is effed. And I don't know why, right?
We'll have to look him up. That's Russell Brand, the comedian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know who you mean.
He's fantastic. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, Linda,
yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to end it off, it's like stigma is a challenge. And, it's what people believe to be true about having issues and having problems. And, I just want to tell you that like people with chronic addiction issues, it's a disease. It's been researched that it's a disease in the brain and that it's not because they're bad people or they're glitched. You know what I mean? Like it just means that there's a challenge there and their brains are working in a different way. Right. And sometimes like you think about it, even with mental illness, like my friend is bipolar and all she has to do is take a medication that is salt because her brain doesn't get enough salt.
Oh.
And that did it. You know what I mean? Like, so she went and got the proper salt in her system that she needed. And her bipolar has been very, very at ease.
Level
right?
up. Yeah. See, we just don't know until we go look. The other thing I would urge people is, I come from a massive family. Don't worry about what other people are going to say. All you can take care of is your own family. Because even in my family, it's always like, well, what are people going to say if we do this? And what are people going to say if we do that? You know what? Go pound sand. Dial my customer service number, 1-800-POUND-SAND. I'm going to do what I need to do.
Mine's kick rocks.
Yeah. Linda, thank you so much. This has been great. And I hope it's been the right time for somebody out there, even if just one person who listens got that light that you shone on it for them and they knew what to do, then we've done a good job today. Thank you.
I agree. Well, thank you for having me. And Dominic, you're wonderful. And you augment me well. I can tell you help finish my sentences because I get caught on it.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to do that.
No, it's really good. It's really good in public speaking, actually. I've done a bit of it and it's fantastic. Jessica's like that with me. We've done presentations together and she's like that too. So yeah, she'd be great to talk to too.
Oh yeah, she would. She
Yeah.
didn't volunteer herself because I asked her.
Oh,
I thought she would say, oh, well, Dom, I could talk on that. And she nominated you first. So I'll get her next. You know, I do this every American Thanksgiving. And then just before Christmas and New Year's, I have these episodes because I think families need, you know, we can talk about business all day long, but really when we shut down the shop, we're going home to our families. And I'm trying to, you know, shed some light for people there, that some value that, you know, anyways, that's what we're doing today. All right.
Christmas coming and, you know, you're going to
everything.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole,
So thank you for having
whole
me.
family dynamic with that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Linda. Have a great day. And maybe we'll have you back again.
Happy
one day soon.
Thanksgiving to everybody in America too.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.